Okay, Ian Morris, thank you very much for giving up your time. Ian Morris of Threerooms Design and Branding. Before we start focusing on website design and development, could we just look at a bit, well, could you tell us a bit about your company background?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I'm Ian Morris, I'm Managing Director of Threerooms. We are a design, brand and web agency in Nottingham. Myself, I'm originally a designer, but I've been working, with websites ever since the web began, and kind of, we're right to speed on that. We pride ourselves in being a sort of cutting edge technology in terms of web. So yeah, we do all sorts of different projects for different customers. So anything from an e-store right through to a sort of marketing landing page, just to kind of drive people to events, a broad range of stuff.
Would you provide a few examples of brands you've worked with and developed with for websites?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, we've worked with the BBC in terms of a project for them recently, which is an international journalist sort of portal, very much social media driven. It pulls feeds from loads of different social media, but it also publishes events and courses available to journalists across the world. So that's one side of the BBC. We also work with Jägermeister, Jäger Music, producing a sort of a website which has all sorts of different assets for clubs and pubs, that sort of thing. Yeah, and colleges, technology companies, all sorts of different types of things. Right through to, say, out and about, children's buggies, an e-store for them, so you can buy online, buy buggies and parts and things like that.
So some really kind of established and strong brands there. Do you do work for smaller companies as well, like anything from a plumber, builders?
Yeah, we tend not to work with plumbers and builders and those sorts of people, but we're happy to help. But I guess where we're at in terms of our position is sort of larger businesses, and I guess it doesn't challenge us enough, that sort of small site, and I think we'd probably be out of their price range, to be honest. But but we work with all different types of organisations, in the sort of middle and large sector.
Now, thinking about developing websites, obviously I know very little about that, but how long will it take to develop a website? I know that was a bit of a broad question.
Yeah, I mean, we get asked that a lot by customers, how long will it take?
Yeah.
And that really does depend, but yeah, mostly I guess the size of the website, but probably more importantly the complexity of it. So what does it do, any special things? Or is it just pages, what we call a brochure site, which might just be 5 or 6 pages which tell you about a company. That could just take, 4 to 8 weeks or something to turn around. That includes the customer delivering content and things like that. But some projects can take well over a year. So the company Farrow and Ball, who are a paint manufacturer, a prestigious paint manufacturer, we've been doing a project for them for well over a year, and it's ongoing and it's tested, and it's very sort of feature rich, and it takes a lot of development time to get to that. So in answer to your question, anything from 4 weeks to 2 years.
And just to pick up on something you said about testing, do you have to test? Do you feel testing is important then for websites?
Absolutely, yeah. Testing. I mean, not just there's testing, which is a functional test. So as we know, we've got phones, we've got iPads and tablets, we've got laptops and browsers, and you can get on the internet on TVs now. So all these different formats. Does your website display correctly, and is it working? And then not only have you got all those formats, but you've got different browser types. So you've got Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, all sorts of different types. And when a website looks good in Chrome, it might look terrible in IE, Internet Explorer. So you have to test. So that's one side of it, so it's technical tests, testing forms and everything, making sure the site works, but also user testing. So how does someone interact with that website? Are they finding the information easily? What are they doing when they find the information? Can they download the item correctly? And in most cases, most importantly, do they make action? Do they take action? Do they make an inquiry? Do they buy a product? So it's about user testing as well as sort of functional, technical testing.
Do your clients give you specific target markets as well when you're designing these websites?
By default, a customer is in a market, and but they'll give us a definition of their target customer. So it's definitely part of the process to understand who they are and whether they're tech savvy or whether they're sort of entry level, and buttons have to be bigger, smaller, and certain things can all take part of that. So we ask for a very clear brief from customers, because the brief is the most important part of the process for us, understanding what the need is.
Okay, obviously, as you just said, websites take a number of weeks to develop, but obviously there are a number of stages you go through. What are the key stages, would you say, of developing a website? What would they be?
Yeah, so following on from the last comment really, I think the most important stage is the specification and the brief. So what is it you want to do and exactly how are we going to do it for you? If you don't get that right, nothing really goes smoothly from that point on. So we spend a lot of time really on getting to know the customer and understanding what we're going to do for them before we actually do it. Actually doing it is the easy bit. So as long as you've got a very solid framework and understanding of what we're going to do, it usually goes quite smooth. But key parts of the process, I think the biggest part of the process and the one that's most commonly overlooked by businesses, and I'd say 90% of the projects we've done this is the case, is content. So fundamentally a website is a place to display information, that's it. But putting that information together is extremely time consuming. So if you've got a website that's got 50 pages on it, you've got to write or create content for 50 pages, and that's not just words, it's pictures, quotations, downloads, all sorts of things, and that can take many weeks to do. And I don't think that's easily overlooked in terms of the amount of time required to do that. So key ones are planning, get it right from the word go. Content, make sure you've got a good content plan in place and start putting content together from day one. It's key one. And I think then being thorough and checking the testing we mentioned before, making sure that on every device and every environment it's working and the end user is getting what they need to out of it.
And obviously I know very little about real website development, but if you were to develop a website for like say a small plumbing company, if that was your client, and starting it from scratch, would it be very different from designing it from an established brand that's been around for maybe 20-30 years? Is it a different process or the same?
I would say whether we work on a brand new website for a new business, or we're recreating or doing a new website for an established business that already has a website, the process is actually the same. We always start from scratch, because the web changes so fast, and the reason that our customers come into us for a new website if they've already got one is because it's not working for them, it's old, it's outdated. There's no point kind of building on an older framework. So web changes daily, so we always want to use the latest framework out there to make sure the site's got longevity. So but I think the process is the same. The only benefit we'd have from working with an existing company is that there's some track record and history to refer to. So what have they had before? And often analytics, sort of web statistics can be a very good guide as to what to do next.
Excellent. That's very surprising actually, because obviously from a little background, I know very little on it. Anyway, an effective website, what would you say some of the key issues or factors are for that?
Okay, effective websites. It depends probably what the required outcome is, and it really, to be an effective website, you've got to deliver what it is the user wants, and you've got to do it quickly, easily, and without sort of any difficulties and problems, I suppose. But I think an effective website is visually interesting, visually engaging, but doesn't have too much fluff and kind of stuff around it. Again, the information is the most important thing, so as long as that's clearly laid out and clearly easy to navigate to, then I think the user will get to the point that they need to and perform the action that you require them to do. So whether that's buy a product or make an inquiry or go onto my social media channel, whatever it is, or watch this video, as long as the experience is smooth and easy to do, then I think that would be an effective website.
And obviously, as you said, that websites are actually developing quite quickly, and what do you think the future is, or where is the future for websites?
Yeah, hard to say. I mean, it moves at 100 miles an hour. We practically have sort of weekly meetings in terms of what's new and what's fresh and what's out there. I think where the web's come from and where it's probably going is that the barriers are coming down. You don't have to be such a specialist anymore. It's not such a sort of taboo, unknown sort of subject, web development. The tools are more accessible, and it's easier to get a good website. So the plumbers, the kind of at that end of the market, can get up and running online in just a matter of minutes using sort of third-party tools and services. So I think the web is more accessible, and making a website is much easier. I think kind of social media is the big player at the moment, and I fully see that being, that could be the web in many ways. So the future might be that, the www dots and kind of these domain names probably go, and all there is a social network, and you have pages and places that exist inside that network, and people can interact with it. So it could be quite complex, but quite interesting.
Excellent. And what about favourite websites? Yeah, any come to mind, or?
Favourite websites? That's a real tough one. I mean, we probably use and look at hundreds, or hundreds every day. Without saying specifics, I suppose, I think it really depends on what I'm wanting to get out of it. So I'm looking at some websites the other day, and it almost infinitely scrolls. You can go on and on and on, and it presents interesting, moving, bright, colourful information. As you go down a page, and you can go on and on, but it almost has no outcome. It's just there for the sake of it. Whereas if I want to buy something, I want the website to be simple, clean, and with clear navigatable items. The buttons are all in a consistent colour, and it's very clear to me what the journey should be, so that I can quickly go from finding the product, deciding the one I want, adding it to the checkout, and checking out within just a matter of minutes, not having to puzzle over what needs to be done. Whereas some sites, I love to puzzle over them, and it's part of the experience. Favourite websites? I don't know, loads of them.
What about the obviously websites and social media? Obviously has to be thought about in the integrated marketing communication process.
Yeah.
So do you think does it have to be consistent with traditional media, for example?
Yes, I think so. The web's different. Like, in terms of a brand, I think it's almost like the website is one of the few places where a brand exists in a slightly different place, in terms of the visual style of it, perhaps. But yeah, it's definitely important to be consistent throughout. So the message that you're putting out there in a press advert, in a magazine, for instance, that needs to be consistent with should someone go online from that advert, the message they receive is the same, and in many cases exactly the same. So if I like a Next dress or a shirt, I go through to the website, sometimes with a QR code, so I'm actually to deliver to the exact page that I wanted. It's consistent, and the product's still there, and I can buy it, and it's exactly that same sort of style and look and feel that I saw in the press.
And would you say then that websites and design and development is important to branding? Is branding important?
Is brand? Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, a brand online. I mean, the web. For some businesses, websites are the primary touch point. That's the place people go. So what is Amazon? Amazon is a website. It's nothing much more than that. It's purely, that is the brand. So every element on there, everything that has been considered to be on that website is Amazon brand. So yeah, I mean, it's very much a brand exercise, a website.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, and we'll hopefully hear you again from Threerooms in the future. Thank you.